a welcoming and inclusive faith community. Thank you for joining us. We who bring a teaching of hope, we who bring a saving message, who welcome all on our doors, the joyful, the heartbroken, atheists and Christians, Muslims and Jews, straight and gay, lesbian, bisexual, queer, transgender, all who are searching, seeking, looking for more meaning, more service, more love. All of us gathered here together. My name is Cynthia Javinsky, and I am your worship associate this morning. I am a member of this congregation and currently serve on the nominations committee. I am a member of the choir. I play flute and piano on occasion, which I'd love to do, and a member of the Buddhist Sangha. Our worship service today is led by our minister, Reverend Dawn Fortune. If you are new to our congregation, welcome. We would love to connect with you and help you get to know our congregation better. If you are joining us live on Zoom, please visit the chat area on your screen and click the visitor link to connect with our congregation. A link to today's order of service is also posted in the chat area for everyone. Video of the service and a printable copy of the sermon will be available on our website and Facebook page later today. If you care to tweet during today's service, you can use the hashtag UUCSJS. If you're hard of hearing, closed captioning of the whole service is available on the YouTube recording that will be posted this afternoon. If you are joining from a computer or smartphone, you are encouraged to type any joys or concerns in the chat box area on your screen. In most platforms, it can be accessed by a chat icon at either the top or bottom of the page. And the chat section will open where you can leave a comment and see what others have said. Please remember that this video will be on the internet, so do not share information best kept private. Welcome to worship.
All my life I will ever be grateful, grateful for the love that inspires me, grateful, grateful for the friends who enrich my days, for the wonder that draws my praise, for the breath that is life's own grace. I am grateful. Fear and loss may be guaranteed, still I'm grateful. I don't have all the things I need, still I'm grateful. I've lived well as a share of pain. Death will come to my door one day. Nonetheless, I will still remain grateful, grateful. In my joy, I am not alone when I'm grateful. Have joys that are all your own. You are grateful. So we join with our hearts as one, thankful for everything love has done, singing songs that have just begun. We are grateful. We are called in our gratitude when we're grateful to give birth to a world that's new, glad and grateful. Till the wounded have all been healed, till the weapons of war fall still, till each heart has a cause to feel grateful,
Welcome. Welcome to you who come in need of healing. Welcome to you who are confused or who have been betrayed. Welcome with your problems and your pain. Welcome too with your joys and your wonderings. Welcome your need for hope, your longing for assurance. Instead of answers, here may you find safety for your questions. Instead of promises, may you find community for your struggles. People with hands and hearts to join you in encouraging and engaging the challenges and changes of our day. Chalice lighting words today come from my colleague, Rebecca Savage. We light our flaming chalice as a beloved people united in love and thirsting for restorative justice. May it melt away the tethers that uphold whiteness in our midst. May it spark in us a spirit of humility. May it ignite in us a radical love that transforms our energy into purposeful action. This is a chalice of audacious hope. This chalice shines a light on our shared past, signaling our intention to listen deeply, reflect wisely, and move boldly toward our highest ideals. I'm glad you're here this morning. Please join now in singing along at home to our gathering hymn, Just As Long As I Have Breath. The words will appear on your screen shortly.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
So the description for today's service is living with intention calls us to a practice of mindfulness. What impact are each of my actions having on the world in which I live? So when I was thinking about this description, I thought about the sand mandalas that the Tibetan monks create. And hopefully you've seen them, but if not, no worries. We have a little video for you in a few seconds. But these are a fantastic ceremony where monks work together to draw these large geometric shapes. They apply colored sand granules using small tubes and funnels. These mandalas take several weeks to build because of the large amount of work involved. And after all the work to create the mandala, the monks sweep it all away and they pour the sand into water. Now, the intention of the sand mandalas is to the effect purification and healing. The sweeping up of the sand symbolizes the transitory nature of life. Pouring the sand into the water disperses the healing energies of the mandala throughout the world. So although the mandala isn't permanent, the memory of the mandala and the healing it provides can be. permanent. The monks leave their mark on this world, even if the mandala does not. So if you've seen it, you know how amazing it is. If you haven't, here's a video for you.
During the next musical interlude, we invite you to write your joys and sorrows in the chat portion of your Zoom screen. The icon will either be on the top or bottom of your screen and will allow you to enter text into the panel where others can see it. At the end of the musical interlude, Reverend Dawn will read what you would share with a congregation gathered here today. Please remember that a recording of today's service will be available on the internet. So as a reminder, please do not share things that ought not be posted on the internet for eternity.
Each week, we gather in this space with things that weigh upon our hearts and our minds. Some of them bring us joy that we would love to share with others, and some bring us sorrow, and we would seek to share that burden to ease our own loads. I will now read what joys and sorrows you would share with this community. From one of our regular viewers up in Massachusetts, Julie Niles asks prayers for Neil's continued strength and recovery. Paul Utz mourns the passing of Reverend Gus' father, the former pastor of the Pleasantville Presbyterian, which is where the UU congregation of the South Jersey Shore had its first charter Sunday. He was a worker for social justice and a kind and gentle man. Well done, good and faithful servant, Reverend Gus' father. I have a thanks here for people who helped with roadside cleanup this bitterly chilly morning. There must have been about 10 people out there. Thank you to all for that. Richard is saying there's a storm coming, hold tight. I'm not sure whether that's meteorological or metaphorical, but in either case, holding tight's probably not a bad idea. Melissa is feeling sad about my announcement to leave the congregation and prays for overall healing in our congregation. Beth and Sean asked prayers for a grandmother who has cancer and kidney disease. Okay, the storm apparently is metaphorical. Heather Swenson Brilla has a sorrow on the realization that our congregation still has inequality, but joy and hope that she may somehow one day have a louder voice. Gina Roche sends love and comfort to those who are feeling challenged right now. Steve McGahee notes with gratitude a note to the life and passing of Thich Nhat Hanh, one of the great spiritual teachers of our time. Okay, it looks like John Brilla says that we had 12 people at the road cleanup today. Tracy Catino shares that her 85-year-old father is close to death, and she is making him feel as comfortable as she can. Tracy, we are holding you and your father and your family in our hearts today. I'm also told by Facebook that today is Paul Utz's birthday. So a happy birthday to Paul. I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer. Blessed and holy creation, universal God of love, we hold in our hearts today a world of seekers and practitioners who are grieving the death of Thich Nhat Hanh at Plum Village in Vietnam on Thursday this past week. We grieve and hold in our hearts the victims of the Texas synagogue shooting and hostage situation last week. Anti-Semitism is alive and thriving in our country, unfortunately. We hold in our hearts those social justice workers who are struggling to make sure that folks have access to the vote. The Voting Rights Act failed to get through Congress this week, and that is a frightening thing for a country. This is also the week we've celebrated the anniversary of Roe v. Wade. It may be the last celebration of that decision, which allowed people the right to make their own decisions about whether or not to be pregnant. We celebrate, though, on this date in 1849, Unitarian Elizabeth Blackwell became the first woman to graduate from medical school in the United States. Her younger sister, Emily, also pursued a career in medicine, and both sisters served in hospitals during the US Civil War. After the war was over, this younger sister, Emily, settled down to live with her partner, Elizabeth Cusher, who was also a doctor who served during the war. The two retired at the turn of the 20th century. Little bits of Unitarian and queer history abound in our world if we will only open our eyes to see it. Holocaust Remembrance Day is this week, Thursday, and it serves as a stark reminder that while humans are capable of great kindness, we are also capable of great evil. 6 million Jews were killed in that Holocaust, and it's estimated that 1 million gay men were also killed in that nightmare. It is worth examining our own current situation, comparing it to the rise of fascism in Germany in the 1930s. Those of us who have ever wondered what we might have done during those years had we been alive at the time, well, what we are doing now is what we would have done then, because the political realities are the same in everything except language and fashion. We must remember, we must never forget, and we must stop it before it happens again here. I had the blessing to attend worship this morning at the Unitarian Church of Cork in Ireland via their Facebook live feed. You have to get up really early to attend church there. And it is there that I learned that today is the anniversary of the death of Arthur Guinness, who died on this day in 1803. In 1752, he began brewing beer and eventually set up shop in St. James Gate in Dublin, where his company still holds a 9,000-year lease with the city for an annual payment of £45. Pray for this congregation and our leaders as we all discern what lies ahead when my time as your minister comes to an end this summer. Let us be patient and compassionate with one another, ever mindful that we are a freely gathered group of people who share values and vision and a heart. We pray for those who are apart from us, whether by distance, time, or conflict unresolved. We pray for those who thirst, whether for water, dignity, or justice. And we pray for our small, blue, fragile planet. Blessings to all, and amen.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
We will now take a moment to give and receive the morning offering. Since we can't pass around a basket over Zoom, We tried, didn't work. We have the next best thing, ways to donate online. In the chat area of your Zoom screen, you will find ways to give over the web, give by text, and our postal address if you'd like to give by check. If you're not joining us live on Zoom, you can visit our website, uucsjs.org, and click on the yellow donate button or text a donation amount to 609-293-4495. No matter how you support us, we appreciate you and your generous heart. After all, your donation is what keeps us going. Each Unitarian Universalist congregation is self-supporting, and 80% of our funds come from you. And no matter how those gifts are offered, they are always most gratefully received.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Our reading today is a poem, and the author's reflection about the poem, taken from the website awaken.org and originally posted in February of 2008. This is by Donna Markova, and the poem is titled, I Will Not Die an Unlived Life. I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me feel less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. The poem is a candle that my soul holds out to me, requesting I find a way to remember what it is to live a life of passion, with passion, on purpose. There's only enough light to take the journey step by step, but that is all any of us really needs. When you have the courage to shape your life from the essence of who you are, you ignite becoming truly alive. This requires letting go of everything that is inauthentic. But how can you even know your truth unless you slow down in your own quiet company? When the inner walls to your soul are graffitied with advertisements, commercials, and the opinions of everyone who has ever known and labeled you, turning inwards requires nothing less than a major cleanup. Traveling from the known to the unknown requires crossing an abyss of emptiness. We first experience disorientation and confusion. Then, if we are willing to cross the abyss in curious and playful wonder, we enter an expansive and untamed country that has its own rhythm. Time melts and thoughts become stories, music, poems, images, ideas. This is the intelligence of the heart, but by that I don't mean just the seat of our emotions. I mean a vast range of receptive and connective abilities, intuition, innovation, wisdom, creativity, sensitivity, the aesthetic, qualitative, and meaning-making. It is here that we uncover our purpose and passion. Donna Markova from I Will Not Die an Unlived Life.
What tracks will we leave on this world? The great and humble teacher and student of mindfulness and meditation, Thich Nhat Hanh, passed from this plane of existence into the next this week at his home at Plum Village in Vietnam. He was 95 years old and spent most of his life living in exile, primarily in France. He was ordained as a Buddhist monk in 1951, and he traveled to the US to study and teach through much of the 1960s. When he formally asked the US government to stop bombing Vietnam in 1966, he was exiled by his country and forbidden to return home. France granted him asylum that year, 66, and he kept working as a peace activist and a poet and a teacher and an author and a proponent of mindfulness practices. He was allowed to return to Vietnam for a visit in 2005, and in 2007, he was permitted to come back and engage in rituals and chanting programs to help the nation and its people heal from some of the long lingering wounds of the terrible Vietnam War in the 60s and 70s. After suffering a stroke in 2014, he returned eventually to his root temple of Plum Village in Vietnam in 2018, where he spent the last of his days. That is an incredibly oversimplified version of an incredibly complex and deep life lived. In contemplating his death, members of his temple family desired to build a shrine for his ashes at Plum Village. And the humble monk opposed the idea of a shrine to the remains of a single man. And he wrote these words: "This body is not me. I am not limited by this body. I am life without boundaries. I have never been born and I have never died. Look at the ocean and the sky filled with stars, manifestations from my wondrous true mind. Since before time I have been free. Birth and death are only doors through which we pass, sacred thresholds on our journey. Birth and death are a game of hide and seek. So laugh with me, hold my hand. Let us say goodbye. Let us say goodbye to meet again soon. We meet today. We will meet again tomorrow. We will meet at the source every moment. We meet each other in all forms of life." And that is from his contemplation on no coming and no going, Thich Nhat Hanh. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh's death prompts us to consider the legacy he left behind. Hundreds of monasteries, countless peace activist groups and organizations, relationships with hundreds of thousands of people around the world whose lives he touched. He lived a life in pursuit of peace, seeking ever to remain humble, even as the world showered him with accolades and adoration. His legacy is every bit as deep as it is broad and wide, having touched the hearts and lives of millions of people around the globe for over 70 years of a very public life for a very humble man. It has been said that Thich Nhat Hanh made the Eastern practices of Buddhism accessible to the Western masses who were seeking a spiritual experience beyond the dominant Judeo-Christian culture of their world. In a century that saw the rise of such profound consumerism, Thich Nhat Hanh taught simplicity and modesty. In a century that emphasized and celebrated individualism and achievement and personal liberties, Thich Nhat Hanh taught about living in community, sharing resources, and our responsibility to others in the world. On this week in 1967, he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize with these words. It's a wonderful letter. dated January 25th, 1967, to the Nobel Institute, Oslo, Norway. Gentlemen, as the Nobel Peace Prize laureate of 1964, I now have the pleasure of proposing to you the name of Thich Nhat Hanh for that award in 1967. I do not personally know of anyone more worthy of the Nobel Peace Prize than this gentle Buddhist monk from Vietnam. This would be a notably auspicious year for you to bestow your prize on the Venerable Nhat Hanh. He is an apostle of peace and nonviolence, cruelly separated from his own people while they are oppressed by a vicious war which has grown to threaten the sanity and security of the world. Because no honor is more respected than the Nobel Peace Prize, conferring the prize on Nhat Hanh would itself be a most generous act of peace. It will remind all nations that men of goodwill stand ready to lead warring elements out of an abyss of hatred and destruction. It would reawaken men to the teaching of beauty and the love found in peace. It would help to revive hopes for a new order of justice and harmony. I know Thich Nhat Hanh, and am privileged to call him my friend. Let me share with you some things I know about him. You will find in this single human being an awesome range of abilities and interests. He is a holy man, for he is humble and devout. He is a scholar of immense intellectual capacity, the author of 10 published volumes. He is also a poet of superb clarity and human compassion. His academic discipline is the philosophy of religion, of which he is a professor at Van Han, the Buddhist university he helped found in Saigon. He directs the Institute for Social Studies at this university. This amazing man is also the editor of Thanh Mai, an influential Buddhist weekly publication. And he is director of Youth for Social Service, a Vietnamese institution which trains young people for the peaceable rehabilitation of their country. Thich Nhat Hanh today is virtually homeless and stateless. If he were to return to Vietnam, which he passionately wishes to do, his life would be in great peril. He is the victim of a particularly brutal exile because he proposes to carry his advocacy of peace to his own people. What a tragic commentary this is on the existing situation in Vietnam and those who perpetuate it. The history of Vietnam is filled with chapters of exploitation by outside powers and corrupted men of wealth. Even until even now, the Vietnamese are harshly ruled, ill-fed, poorly housed, and burdened by all the hardships and terrors of modern warfare. Thich Nhat Hanh offers a way out of this nightmare, a solution acceptable to rational leaders. He has traveled the world counseling statesmen, religious leaders, scholars, and writers, and enlisting their support. His ideas for peace, if applied, would build a monument to ecumenism, to world brotherhood, to humanity. I respectfully recommend to you that you invest this cause with the acknowledged grandeur of the Nobel Peace Prize of 1967. Thich Nhat Hanh would bear this honor with grace and humility. Sincerely, Martin Luther King Jr. The Nobel Peace Prize was not awarded in 1967. Every now and then they do that. According to the Nobel Peace Center website, it reads, since the inception of the prize in 1901, there have been a number of years when the Nobel Peace Prize was not awarded. Altogether, it has happened 19 times, most recently in 1972. The Norwegian Nobel Committee can decide to postpone the Nobel Peace Prize. However, if they do not award it within the following year, the prize amount will be returned to the Nobel Institute's fund. This may be the case if none of the nominations qualify for the prize or if the members of the committee cannot reach a decision. Hindsight is always 20/20. I am sure there are more than a couple among the Nobel Institute who think that Thich Nhat Hanh should maybe have been given the Peace Prize, in retrospect. I couldn't find any notes about how or why that decision was made. For what it's worth, Mahatma Gandhi, also never received the award, although he was nominated. Perhaps there are times when peace activists exiled by violent, brutal, oppressive regimes are too politically untouchable to be embraced publicly. But that is my own speculation, nothing more. Barack Obama, of course, was awarded the Peace Prize for nothing more significant than not being George W. Bush, after all. Thich Nhat Hanh taught much of the world what the practice of mindfulness is and offered accessible ways for people to engage in it. We didn't have to travel to Asia, climb to a mountaintop to find a slice of peace in our frazzled worlds. We could journey within, seek the calm that exists there. We could let go of all that is unnecessary, if only in our minds, and seek simplicity in our hearts. We could focus on being present, attuned to each moment, conscious of our breath, aware of our heartbeat, in touch with our bodies. We can think about our actions and consider their impact. Are they necessary? Are they life-giving? Are they affirming? Do they encourage peace? Mindfulness practice keeps us in the moment, but it also has a legacy. What we do today affects the world and what we will encounter tomorrow. And consecutive string of days stretched long enough becomes a legacy of a career, a relationship, a lifetime. Thich Nhat Hanh chose peace every day, each moment, even as it has left, each moment even, and it has left us a lifetime legacy of peace lived every day. The footprints left by this humble monk are clear and unwavering. There are no places where he strayed from his path. When we look back on our lives, what do you think your impact on the world might be? What might your footprints through life look like? I know teachers who look back on a lifetime of educating and encouraging children, artists who leave a legacy of their work behind in galleries and hung on walls of collectors. When I think about my own impact on the world, I fear my footsteps might look like those left by a dog chasing multiple seagulls at the beach. I've been a reporter and an editor and a bus driver, and I've worked construction, organized volunteers, and I preached some words. Perhaps my footprints may indicate a life of exploration. I have no idea how it will all be described when I'm gone, and that is truly not my concern. I find that taking stock at the end of each day is a good practice, though, and it can focus my attention more sharply on the next day. When I prepare for bed, I think, what did I do today? But I try not to merely recite a litany of errands run or chores accomplished. Instead, I consider whether I was present in the moment, or was my mind somewhere else? Were my daily activities meaningful to me, or simply busy work for my brain and body? We cannot all live lives that get us nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, but we can live lives of relatively simple mindfulness and humility. We can strive, like St. Francis of Assisi, to serve rather than be served, to bring peace where there is violence, harmony where there is strife, justice where there is exploitation or abuse. Each day matters. Each moment matters. If we are engaged in even the simple task of washing dishes, we can devote ourselves to the simple beauty of that humble act. Mindfulness draws us into the moment and challenges us to embrace that moment for what it is, not unlike Thoreau, sitting in his cabin at Walden, experiencing every bit of life, good or bad, but truly knowing it deeply. What footprints will you leave on this world? I offer you now these words again from Thich Nhat Hanh. The moment I die, I will try to come back to you as quickly as possible. I promise it will not take long. Isn't it true I am already with you as I die each moment? I come back to you in every moment. Just look, feel my presence. If you want to cry, please cry, and know that I will cry with you. The tears you shed will heal us both, your tears and mine. The earth I tread this morning transcends history. Spring and winter are both present in the moment. The young leaf and the old leaf are really one. My feet touch deathlessness, and my feet are yours. Walk with me now. Let us enter the dimension of oneness and see the cherry tree blossom in winter. Why should we talk about death? I don't need to die to be back with you. Thich Nhat Hanh. May our prayer and our practice be mindfulness and peace, today and always. Amen.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
Closing words today come to us from Always We Begin Again by John McQuiston II. At the beginning of each day, after we open our eyes to receive the light of that day, as we listen to the voices and the sounds that surround us, we must resolve to treat each hour as the rarest of gifts and be grateful for the consciousness that allowed us to experience it. Recalling in thanks that our awareness is a present from we know not where or how or why. When we rise from sleep, let us rise for the joy of the true work that we will be about this day, and considerately cheer one another on. Life will always provide matters for concern. Each day, however, begins with it reasons for joy. Each day carries the potential to bring the experience of heaven. Have the courage to expect good from it. Be gentle with this life and use the light of life to fully live in your time. I invite you now to join in our unison words for extinguishing the chalice. Say them along at home with me. They're on your screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Start shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you. Birds singing in a sycamore tree. Dream a little dream of me. Say nighty night and kiss me. Just hold me tight and tell me you'll miss me. Balloon and blue as can be. Dream a little dream of me. Stars fading, but I linger on there. Still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn, dear. Just saying, sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams to leave all worries behind you. But your dreams wherever they be. Dream a little dream of me. Stars fading, but I linger on there. Still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn, dear. Just saying, sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams to leave all worries behind you. But your dreams wherever they be. Dream a little dream of me. But in your dreams wherever they be. Dream a little dream of me. We got big idea. But in your dreams wherever they be. Dream a little dream of me.
We have some announcements this morning. The decision about whether February services will be online or in person will be made in a coming week. Pay attention to your midweek announcements and check the website for that decision. Please take the opportunity to keep virtually connected. Events this week include the Heartfulness Meditation, which is daily, and the Buddhist Sangha on Tuesday evening. If you need to schedule a meeting or event, please email admin@uucsjs.org for use of the Zoom room or to be added to the calendar. Join us next week for worship when we ask, what are your intentions? We are each granted one life with which we are to learn, experience, and accomplish all that we might. What will you do with that life you have been given? Will you create community? Will you explore the stars? Will you make $1 million? What are your intentions? We warmly welcome all of you who are visiting us today. Please click on the visitor link in the chat area to connect with our congregation. We invite all of you here today to stay and socialize in our online social time so that we can get to know each other better. Now let us share in a moment of silent reflection to consider today's message and the meaning it has in our lives. Those who are on their computers or smartphones, if you have your video off, you can now start your video so we can see each other's faces, so we can connect better.